Okay, this meeting is called to order. Could we have a roll call?
Roll call, sorry. Councilmember Scott Donahue.
Here.
School Board Member Melody Dice.
Here.
Councilmember Jack Asher, excused. Councilmember Ruth Atkins.
Here.
Councilmember Nora Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Diane Martinez.
Here.
School Board Member John Apple.
I think he's on his way, I believe.
School Board Member Joy Kent, excused, right?
Yes.
School Board Member Don Merriam.
Yes.
School Board Member Christian Patz.
Not here. I think excused.
Excused.
Public comment on items not on the agenda. Anybody have any comments? Approval of the June 4th minutes and the September 3rd minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Any objection to approval? Seeing none. Announcements. Member comments.
I have one, but I can wait. Many, and is it on? Okay. Well, for those who don't know, I will be stepping down from the school board effective December 6th, and I did want to extend to my colleagues here. The school board have been true teachers for me. I've been 13 years on the school board in Emeryville. Prior to that, I was a high school graduate of Emory High School, school board representative when I was in high school. So this group is not new. Nora is not a new face.
You can say that.
Not a new face to me at all. I actually remember receiving a reward, a certificate from the from the city council as well. And so I implore you to think about that, because that helped on my college app, I'm certain. So, but civic leadership and just the ability to govern and with high integrity and ethics, as I just mentioned, is really critical to our community. And even though I will be stepping away in that role and being a primary resident of another location, my heart remains here. My mother and my sister graduated from the high school. She's still a resident. My mother raised 2 and a grandchild through this school district and in this city. And I'll still be here. It's still home, but I do appreciate everything, all the support to allow me to grow, even when I was brand new and clueless about all this stuff. But I do feel like I trial by fire in many instances. And in addition, know that there's a number of challenges for any partnership, and hope that we all continue to put the kids and families first. So I do appreciate everyone's support and sorry, but but I do, I do wish every project, everything coming forward and present well, and I'm certain everything will be successful with the right people, focus on the right things. So I just wanted to appreciate everyone here, and again, wish the community the best, but I'll still be around, so I won't be too far. That's just my thing, my last meeting.
Well, Melody, I want to thank you. I don't know how many school superintendents you've seen come and go. You've been through. You came on after the recall, during a really challenging time, and I think your leadership has helped the school board enter the next generation and the next period of time and growth, and so. I want to appreciate for all that you've given to your hometown, to your home school district. I've enjoyed when we went to DC together for some of that joint lobbying. That was very effective.
Paid off.
It did pay off. So I think when a lot of people don't understand the personal sacrifice involved in public service of this kind. So I just want to thank you for that, and all the time that and heart that you've poured into your work as a school board trustee.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got to chime in. I've known Melody since she was in high school. She has been a breath of fresh air in this town, and she has contributed so much that people won't really understand until we lose her. I'm going to miss you, Melody.
Appreciate that. Same here.
Okay, any other comments? Action items, none. Information items. Wellness Center, ECCL.
I assume I'm supposed to be over here.
That works.
Come check. First thing, my name is Juliet Dunn. I'm the Wellness Director for Emory Unified School District, and I have first dibs on Melody, so. I'm here to give you an update on the school-based health and wellness center planning team. It was a team that was put together about a year ago, actually, to talk about developments for the school-based health center, what we're going to be doing, programming, how do we get it going, how do we even figure out the floor plan, which we did first, and so there was a lot of, I want that room, I don't want that room, no, you can't have this, move this over here. But we took care of all of that, and that's been done. Our first meeting was October 20th this year. The next meeting is going to be November the 14th. We've been focusing on several different things. First of all, we were looking at the FF&E, which is the, okay, help me out now, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And looking at what we have already, what we're going to bring in, what we could have money for. Part of it was talking about the 2 dental offertories that we have. We had quotes on one very, very expensive dental chair, and then we found out, as we talked to Lifelong, who's our medical provider, medical lead actually, that we could get 2 smaller ones, same coupling and everything. So we were looking at that funding so we could spread it out and actually cover some of the shortfall and some other things that we had in there. So that's been going on as a discussion. We also developed a subcommittee, a fundraising subcommittee, because we knew that we not only had to talk about how we could make this health center move forward, we had to fund some other things in it besides just getting built. We had money coming in from Alameda County, but what about other monies that we need to make sure that it moved forward? So we have a fundraising committee to talk about, well, where are funds coming from? How do we look at what we have, what could come from the city, what could come from the school, and what could come from different accounts that we have around that we could apply for once we actually have a building on the ground. There are a lot of funds available through federal programs, but you have to have a building. So we didn't have a building, but now we do, so that we can work on getting those kinds of things. Student involvement was a big concern. We wanted to make sure that the people who are going to be using this, not only student and committee, would be involved in the programming and planning of it. So we are working with Lifelong, one of their managers. She's putting together Become a Student Health Ambassador, and that's been, the first meeting was October the 27th. We've gotten about 15 students who are interested in not only developing leadership skills, hosting monthly health meetings, planning the first annual health fair, and we want to do this because we want our high schoolers as well as to trickle down into the grammar school information so that they're aware of what's going on at the school-based health center and that they actually have some kind of affinity for it before we open the door. And then last but not least, we've been talking to our superintendent, we've been talking to the principals, because we want our teachers to be involved in understanding what it can do, what it can't do, going over some information and moving forward with the planning that we have. Basically, that's pretty much what we've been doing. We're going to have our next meeting on November the 14th, and along those lines, we're slowly but surely fluffing. We're going to be taking, I believe on the 14th, we're going to be taking a tour through the site. I've gone through, but not everybody on the committee, which consists of the city, Lifelong Medical, students, not students, the school district, let's see who else. I think that's it, pretty much. Okay. Are there any questions?
I have a few. Tell me about what health coverage would be happening for students and for our seniors.
Well, students are pretty much covered under a grant that we're going to get from Alameda County in order to seek services there. And then Lifelong would work with their own insurance if they have any. Seniors, they would work with, Lifelong works with seniors now. They have a senior program with the senior center to come in and do different things. And one of the things we'll look at is how can we transfer that over in terms of services and how much services and what that looks like. We can't, I frequently tell people, we need to manage expectations. We're not going to be doing heart surgery at the clinic, but if there are other things, especially informational and especially like immunizations, we can do that at the clinic. So those are some of the discussions that are going on. We don't have specific details, and that's why we have this committee so that we can go through and ask those questions and find out not only from them, but from, because they're going to be running the clinic. We're just housing them, but they're going to be running the clinic. Lifelong medical.
Okay, and so it functions not as primary medical care, but more as like a nurse at a traditional school might function.
And also having a doctor, and there's also psychological services that we're going to offer and have there, dental. So it could be primary in terms of dental, but at least for basics, and then we would farm out to Lifelong wherever their facilities are if you needed something like oral surgery or something like that, or someone else who is qualified.
So if someone needs care that can't be provided on facility, it would be more of a referral service to another health provider.
Probably, or to Lifelong's health clinics too, because they have several in Berkeley and around, and they have services. So probably start with them and then move on from there.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you making any outreach to the new people who are coming to city, Sutter Health particularly, and the other big hospitals that are coming into the city with outlying establishments, to connect with them to see if they can't pour some money or personnel into our wellness center? Is there any effort being made in there? It's a prime opportunity.
I have gone out as the wellness director and talked to Stanford and the new clinic that's back there.
Right.
I've also made some overtures to, Benioff Children's Hospital
Right.
at this point.
And now
talked to
Sutter's
them.
moving into 1900 Val. That's
I didn't know about Sutter, but.
Yeah, that's 3 very large, very wealthy establishments, and this is a small school district. And they have the personnel, and they certainly want the PR about how great they are. So I would hope we could pursue that avenue to increase the services that we can offer to our people.
That's a great suggestion. I'll bring it to our fundraising committee to let know, because I didn't know about Sutter. But yes, that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. We have to be mindful of our medical leave, but there are other ways that we can bring them into the wellness department that has nothing to do with the health
And now's the
center.
time to be doing it. You have a window of opportunity here, I'd say of at least 6 months.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Nora. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
I have a
you're
question.
not. Okay.
Done. Good evening.
Good evening.
I actually toured a very impressive school-based health center in Oakland this week at Roosevelt Middle School. Ms. Lang was there too, actually, so she would have seen it. They had, it looked like a clinic in the middle of a school. 2 or 3 exam rooms, a charts room, a dental room, a room for the administrator of the clinic, a reception area with staff by 2. So I think that's more than we are offering or will have space for. No, or what exactly?
That sounds exactly like what we're putting out there. We have
What's our configuration? That's
we
my
have
question.
2 dental offertories. We have 3 exam rooms. The school nurse has a room. We have also a reception area. We have an area for the doctors and anybody else that's coming from Lifelong. and the manager of Lifelong there on that floor. Right next to it, on the other side, is where Wellness and the part of the Family Resource Center and all of our interns and psychological services are located. So it kind of sounds like ours. It's going to take us a little while to get quite where you are, but what's nice is I believe there's a new law that just came out that in order for us to be federally qualified, we can be open for 30 hours to do initial work versus 20. So it gives us a little bit more time to be flexible. And one of the things about 3 or 4 years ago when we first started looking at the concept of having a school-located health center is how do we share it? How do we figure out that we can keep confidentiality for students and confidentiality for parents and everybody coming and enjoying the facilities and using them without feeling like, ooh, Mr. Affeld just saw me walk in there. What am I going to do? Oh, Lord, I can't do this. So we're looking at hours. We're looking at time frames. We're looking at all kinds of things to help people feel comfortable in the space, but also utilize it as much as possible across the board.
On the confidentiality front, there's a question about how soundproof our rooms are. Are you familiar with this?
Right, there was a question.
Do you know what, I guess,
for-
ideally there's a certain level of soundproofness, and where are we at, and do we need to buttress that a little before, while we're in the final construction phases here?
I know there's been information going back and forth between ourselves and Swinnerton as well as several other folks. I'm not sure exactly where we are on that, but I know it was a question. And it was also a question for the school, too, in terms of being able to have, like in special ed, if you're counseling or testing a particular student, you want to be able to have it soundproofed enough so that we protect their confidentiality and you're actually able to do what you're supposed to do. So I am going to refer that question to either Dr. Rubio or the gentleman sitting over there who can tell us where we are in terms of, I believe Mark has a lot of information on, sorry Mark to call you out, but information on exactly how much soundproofing we have to have, how much they want to have, and where we are in between that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you on that update. ECCL update, Mr. Baker.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to give you the update on ECCL to the City Schools Committee, the council members and board members who are here this evening. I always start these updates off with an overview of the building letters because it's something we refer to them on the project team as A, B, C, and D, and E, and we'll do so during this presentation. Again, Building A is the community building at the corner of 53rd and San Pablo. Building B is the administration building along San Pablo. Building C is the K-8 school, which is in the middle of the site. Building D is the high school, which is the corner of 47th and San Pablo. And Building E is the gym and pool. Also, before proceeding, I did want to point out we have key members of our project team here this evening, Mark Sarverlick and Terry Tran from DSK Architects, and also Bob Diaz and Andrew Pitts from Turner Construction. So construction update, again, our construction activity has really continued at a pretty rapid clip over the last several months. On the gym, the Building E roof reconstruction, which is our single largest challenge on that project. Again, once we took the roof off that building, we discovered that about half of the sheathing was in need of replacement. And more troubling is that below that, the roof framing was plywood instead of lumber. It was not built per plan and spec, so we had to replace a number of members and do a new sheathing and also some metal strapping on that roof. And that actually caused us to about a 6-week delay in the project as we replaced that roof structure and sheathing, and then we could not start drywall inside the building until that was complete. But that's now was completed a couple weeks ago. The drywall installation is about 95% complete inside the gym, and much of it is painted now, and gym interior finishes are in progress. On the high school, roofing and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, roughing are all complete. The exterior wall sheathing is complete, except where the deck between C and D join. The window installation is in progress, and we're very close to having that building closed in to weather. The Building A, the community building, the roofing is complete. The exterior walls are starting. That's the stucco work on the outside of the walls, and drywall will be commencing soon. At the admin building, Building B, the wood framing is almost complete. We've got everything but about the roof, except the second floor roof, pretty much framed up. And we'll look at that in a minute here. And the K-8 building, Building C, metal deck is complete, and the concrete pours are in progress. And I think we're just about to do the third floor slab pour, and then all of our concrete work on the building, other than sidewalks, on the whole project will be complete. An update on unforeseen conditions, challenges, and what our team has done to mitigate those. The two biggest issues we had in the gym, the coating removal at the gym steel framing is complete, was completed a while ago. The gym roof reconstruction that I just mentioned is complete. And the gym will be complete in December. And we're working closely with the team to get that done in December so that it is available for use by both the city and the school after the first of the year. One of the things that has been very helpful is working with city staff. The city council graciously gave us, just Tuesday night, a temporary waiver of the city's noise ordinance on Saturdays between now and Christmas, basically, the Christmas holiday. There's some limitations, of course. The work will be limited between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. The backup beepers on trucks need to be disabled on those Saturdays. And then the 2 Saturdays following the holidays, following the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, will be limited to interior work only. But that will allow the team to do some acceleration to complete the gym building so that we can have it ready for everyone to use the first of after the holidays. Utility resequencing is really about complete now. We've done all of our connections in the streets, or most of the connections in the streets, especially on San Pablo, which was a huge challenge, as I've mentioned to this committee before. We now have the access needed to do that between buildings C and D is now completed, so we can now complete the last part of that, which is the link between buildings C and D, which include the elevator and stair for the high school. We had a number of design changes to building C, the K-8 school, due to the DSA review and some other things. That took us out of our queue for steel fabrication by about 2 months. We picked up about a month or so through working with the construction team to pour the ground floor slab early, and we're going to continue working on some schedule expedited measures. We hope to pull that even up sooner so we can finish that building in the spring and summer. Our coordination with many of the agencies is really about complete. We're pretty much done with the exception of inspections and closeout for both the cities of Emeryville and Oakland, Caltrans, PG&E, and our good friends at the East Bay Municipal Utility District. So a few photographs here. Here's Building A, the community building. You can see, if you look carefully, you can see on the Kinder Buddy spaces, that lower building, you can see the roofing complete, the white roofing. It's also complete up top. And of course, you see the scaffolding is now in place to do the waterproofing and stucco work on that, so we can close that building in. At Building B administration, this is a unique shot. This is showing the teen room, which is the one that you see partially sheathed in plywood, and then behind that, the steel framing, that's the big 2-story lobby on San Pablo. This is a view from the K-8 school looking towards Building B that shows that our framing is just about complete. You can kind of see the roof framing underway at the very top, and we have the plywood sheathing going up right now. So once this is done, our kind of our structural framing will be just about done in all the projects. This is a view looking the other direction towards Building D, the high school. You can see Building B on the left and Building D, the high school, on the right. In this close-up version, you can see the scaffold in place. You see that gray board is the sheathing. And you can also see the windows now going in place. So I think all the window frames are in, and we'll be doing glazing soon so we can close that building in. The K-8 school, this is a view from the basketball courts. In the foreground is the multi-use room, and you can see the sort of the steel truss work at the top. That's the roof framing over that, and then the 3-story school in the background. This shows the ground floor slab now complete. Those metal straps you see hanging from The second floor are what support the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and other infrastructure, the MEP work in that floor. This floor slab above the deck you see there is now poured in concrete, so you can walk up and walk on the second floor, and very shortly we'll be done with the third floor framing. And if anyone, I've said many times, we welcome everyone to come by for a site tour, and the view from the third floor of the school is really quite spectacular, and I would love to show all of you around sometime so you can take a look at that. Building E, the gym, this is the sheetrock. The drywall work is now done inside the gym, and you can see the walls and ceiling are painted. That's all of our new ductwork and electrical work in there. But this is really moving along quickly. After this work is done, the next step will be to get this closed in, get the heating going, and we bring in the gym floor. And the gym floor has to acclimate. The way that you do gym floors, the wood itself has to acclimate to the humidity and temperature inside the gym before it can be placed. So we'll be stacking wood flooring in there pretty soon. It needs to sit there for a number of, I think about a couple weeks, and then that will go in, and then following that will be the bleachers. On the outside of Building E, the gym is pretty much complete. You see the part that you do see under construction is the exterior walls where we enclosed the breezeway, the previous breezeway. And so that work will need to be completed, and then will be done and closed in that building also. Every quarter, Turner gives us a quarterly report in terms of their compliance with the Community Benefits Agreement, which is the document which is accepted, the program accepted and approved by both the council and the board. And what I'd like to do is invite Bob Diaz here to give an overview of their work in compliance with that CBA document.
Hello, I've met a few of you before over the last 6 or so years I've worked on this project. Currently, with regards to our community benefits agreement, as you can see, we're doing quite well on our local business participation. Perhaps more challenging in a very busy time in the construction industry is finding workers, local workers, because quite frankly, everybody has a job in the construction industry. We've done our best. We've actually hired some Emeryville residents. We have Emeryville residents on our own staff at Turner now, and we'll continue to look for those opportunities. We're also bringing on new contractors, and every time we bring in new contractors, we reiterate our commitment to local hiring. And we are working with the school district right now to bring on an intern, our second intern from the high school, and we'll bring on a third intern probably in the spring as well. So we are well on our way, I think, to fulfilling our commitment. It's something our Director of Community Relations, Elena Anaya, is she's on top of. She's in Oakland. We deal with the local agencies a lot, and we understand. By the way, our Emeryville resident we hired on earlier in the summer, we recruited from Cypress Mandela. He was a pre-apprenticeship program, so he's an apprentice now with us and doing quite well. We're very happy about that. He's a graduate of Emory High School.
That's great.
Any questions about it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Some additional information outside the work, the construction work on site. We did a thorough analysis of all of our low voltage systems, by that security, data telecommunications, audiovisual. We've now completed that and made some revisions to make sure that the ECCL project is set up for not just current technology, but technology looking into the future. The furniture selection procurement process is over the halfway point, I would say. The gym and pool FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment selection is underway so that we can get that delivered to the site when that facility opens very soon. We're finalizing what we call the piggyback scope of work, where we have been able to utilize other school districts' publicly bid contracts to purchase furniture that has been bid competitively for much larger districts, so we can take advantage of the economies of scale that those districts have. We also have quite a few what we call independent vendors, which are not piggyback contracts, so we are procuring those specialty items such as pool equipment. And our team is working closely with city staff and district staff to finalize those. And most importantly, we're working pretty hard to confirm the lowest pricing. So in some cases, although logic would be that the piggyback contracts that large districts use to procure furniture would be less expensive, we've actually found some ways to buy those things for less in order to be making sure that we're making the best use of our bond dollars. And finally, many of you it was great to see many of you, actually most of you, at our Topping Out event, which is about a month ago on September 29th. This is an age-old construction tradition where the last piece of structural steel is hoisted in place. We gave everyone the opportunity to kind of sign that beam and put messages of goodwill and things of that nature on that. It was a big celebration primarily for the construction laborers, for the labor force in the field. And the mayor made some lovely comments, I thought, about those men and women in the field. It was a great sunny day, and it was I thought it was a great event to bring the community and all of you out to see the project. And with that, that's my update for this city schools meeting.
Okay, we'll entertain some questions. Well, I have some questions.
Clarifying questions and then public comment.
What about if construction isn't completed at the gym by the first of the year? Do we have any economic lever with Turner about this? How does this work? What position are we in? As a city, we've invested money in this facility, a lot of money. But in other words, what if Turner has to mobilize for another job and they walk off? What is our real leverage?
Well, first of all, our primary leverage is the contract. I certainly don't anticipate Turner or their subcontractors walking off the job. We're about 95% complete with that project, with that building right now. The contract is very specific what their contractual legal obligations are. They need to complete the work by certain milestones. We did grant some additional time for the roof replacement and some other things that were unforeseen in that project. They have a new contract completion where they must complete that facility by the 23rd of December. They have asked to use some Saturday work to pick up time on that as well. But the contract is very specific that if they don't meet that deadline, there are liquidated damages that can be assessed against them and some fairly stringent things that the city and district can put into effect should that not be achieved.
Okay, and is that true for other elements of our contracts going forward, for the other parcels or other buildings?
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
Okay.
So I have a question. Mr. Baker, can you remind us of the current schedule for the completion of the high school and for the K through 8?
Sure. The high school, the big issue with the high school actually was the installation of site utilities within the community commons. The entire site is built as one physical plant where everything is looped together and connected. We were not able to do our street connection, which you start in the street and you work inward, especially with sanitary and sewer and storm drains. Because once we started doing the work in the street, there was a 24-inch pipe all along. Okay, so anyway, so that delayed us. All right, I think we've talked about that.
I understand. We've talked about the delay.
So long story short is what it delayed is not really the high school construction. As you can see that we're really in good shape there, but finishing that, substantially completing that building by the end of the year. The problem is that the elevator and stair, which you have to have access for ADA access, we were not able to start construction of that structure, which is between buildings C and D, until we had all that delayed work in the community commons complete.
Right.
So, long story short, we're looking right now at completing the elevator and stair in the spring, even though the building itself will be substantially complete. And so the good news is we're done with that utility work, so we know what that impact is, we know what that schedule is. We've been working with Oakland Unified School District to extend the lease at the Santa Fe site for whatever time, for as long as is needed to allow us to have still a temporary place for the high school. We're going to be able to have the gym open next semester, which has been one of the primary issues the high school's had is access, not having athletic facilities. I think some of you heard that from some of the students on Tuesday night. That's really been the primary issue, from what I've heard, is not having a gym. But in any case, we're looking to be able to occupy the high school in the spring. And again, the good news is that all the issues which delayed site utilities are now behind us, and we can now proceed with that construction.
Do we have a specific target date? Would it be spring break so that there would be time to move?
Yeah, we're talking right now with the teachers. In our discussions with faculty and teachers at the high school, and especially when we've been talking about the furniture, they're not keen to do a move that's over a short period of time, like a spring break. They really would like to move at the end of a semester. We have some options available to us to do it more quickly. We've done that under the projects, but working with the superintendent, we've been discussing with them when we might be able to do that move, and those discussions are still in progress.
Okay, and then when is the K-8 building?
So the K-8 building, the current contract completion date for that is June. Again, like I mentioned, we took a 2-month hit to that schedule with our steel issues of getting our completion of responses to the Division of State Architect. That took time, so it bumped us out of the fabrication queue. We got back in, and we were able to pick up a month by resequencing some work, specifically building the slab before the structure, which actually in that type of construction you don't do. So right now, looking at, I think, about a July or so completion date. We're going to still work with the project team to see if we can pull that in. The key thing is, of course, finishing that school early enough in the summer that we have time to move in and get training done and so forth before school starts in the fall.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from the public?
Oh, I had some questions,
sorry,
Mr.
John.
Chair. We're still on. Do you have information about the soundproofing question and
Yeah, I'm
whether
glad.
we're hitting the right
So
levels?
that we actually had quite a long discussion with the DSK team yesterday about this. I first want to say that the DSK team has a consultant on their team, Charles Salter Associates, who is one of the premier acoustical consultants in the United States. They have a detailed acoustical report, which is part of the design criteria that the design team has been using for the project. I know that the health center staff has come up with some requirements for sound. We're taking a look at those. I've asked the team to take a look at those and discuss those with Salter Associates. We discussed some additional sound measures that can be put in place at very low cost. For example, there are some, in addition to what we've specified in the project, there are some noise canceling systems that can be put in to add an added measure of acoustical control specifically in that facility. But it's something that we're keenly aware of. We've received the information from the health center staff. The design team is looking at that with Salter Associates to make sure that we're not only in compliance with sort of code standards, but also responding to the programmatic needs of that facility for soundproofing. And perhaps Mr. Sarver can talk a bit more about that when he comes up to do his presentation.
So you're looking at it, and it sounds like you think you might be able to adequately soundproof the facility.
Yes, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to do that, and maybe even add some added measures as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask Mark as well. Thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Baker? Brian?
Public comments on this?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to have the chair ask Mr. Baker if he could please be available for a couple questions, since I'm a parent with a child in the district, privately out here. I have a couple questions about what you just said. If you could just ask Mr. Baker if he could make himself available. If he can't, well, okay, but if you could ask him, I would appreciate it after I finish talking. We just heard kind of a blockbuster just now. we were told definitively the high school was going to be ready for the kids to move in at the beginning of the semester, which is in January. That was, and then about a month and a half ago, we find out, nope, oops, I guess not, because the elevator isn't going to be ready, and ADA requires the elevator to be ready. And so Mr. Rubio, the superintendent, told us all, the building will be completed, the FF&Es, all the furniture will be in, everything ready, except we can't let the kids in because there's no elevator, so that won't be ready until March. So now we just found out from Mr. Baker of Swinnerton that no, actually that's not true. That's not going to be, she says, he's now just used the word substantially completed, and he just released this bombshell where he just told us that it's probably not going to be open at all this next semester. He said the parents don't want to move the teachers don't want to move the kids in the middle of the semester. So this is a huge blockbuster story, and I think we didn't really get a proper explanation for that. I think you should ask some tougher questions than that. Now, which brings me to, once again, problems I have with Swinnerton Construction. I believe that they're not working for us. They work for Turner. You could hear Mr. Baker's presentation. He uses the word we and us, meaning Turner. That kind of lets you know what's going on here. We're paying over $1 million to Swinnerton to represent our interests. A couple days ago, on Tuesday, they came to the city council, not Turner, Swinnerton, to ask for a noise waiver, and apparently it's because of something about rain days, and so they want a noise waiver. Now, if Swinnerton were actually working for us, for the district and for the city, they would say, Turner wants a noise waiver for this project. Here's where our leverage, our leverage, not our meaning the Turner. Here's where we have leverage. You can say yes to their noise waiver. You want to represent the children's interest and get them moved in quickly, that's fine. But here's a publicly traded corporation, for-profit corporation, asking for favors for us. I don't think you should be granting favors for free. I think you should be leveraging our interest. Now I'm talking to the council and the school board. You should be leveraging our interest. So when Turner comes to us for favors, you can grant the favors, but you should be negotiating in our best interest, not just giving away favors to Turner-Swinnerton. And so I want you to start working in our interests, and I want Swinnerton to start working for us and not for Turner. I mean, it's really clear with the pool, when you're telling us about the pool is going to be 200% over budget, you were making excuses for
Okay, Brian, your time is up.
Okay, I want Swinnerton to start working for the residents. I want this body to represent the residents' interests. Could you ask the man if I could speak with him? Thank you.
Moving along.
Do we have other members of the public who would like to ask some questions or say something about this report?
May I make a comment? Not to that, but I just want to make a comment about the presentation.
Sure.
Good evening, John Rubio, Superintendent of Emeryville Unified. I just want to expand on one of the things that Mr. Baker mentioned, that I really like to invite our parents to come out and schedule a visit to the site as much as they like, and so I want to give that phone number to any parents who are interested. If a parent or community member would like to come schedule a tour with Mr. Baker of the site, they should call 510-601-4906. Everyone that we know who has a tour gets very excited about the project, so we'd like to encourage parents to check out the site and see what the classrooms and the facility is going to look like. And I'd just like to say thank you to Turner Construction, because I'm very excited that our high school students have these kinds of opportunities to be interns and get that experience. We know that when high school students get experience, that it could change the course of their lives for 12 years at times, sometimes, right? So just like to say thank you to Turner Construction for providing that opportunity for our high school students. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item C, ECL's presentation about the flow and access to the site for the public and students.
Good evening. I'm Mark Cyberlake, and I have seen some of you before. Give me a minute while I find my What I'm going to do here, I'll be as brief as I can and then allow as much time as you would like for questions. Some of what will be shown here tonight is a lot what the board saw a couple nights ago. And I just added a couple of site photos to start my presentation. Just to remind everybody that we're underway. It's exciting. I would reiterate, anybody that's got a chance to actually get out to the site and look around and get up into the buildings, it's kind of a fun time to get to understand the building and how it works and what it looks like, and to be a part of, I guess, the excitement that's going on right now. This is the site plan for the project, and I'm going to show you this, talk a little bit about the organization, and then I got the next slide will show you some of the things to talk about and how the flow works. But to remind everybody, this is 53rd, San Pablo here, and 47th here. The parking drop-off is along 53rd during the 2 times a day for drop-off and pickup. The K-8 kids will enter through here. The public can enter in off of San Pablo. The high school can enter in through here, and then the school, the gym entrance is here. The yellow are the areas that are predominantly managed by the city, and then this is the K-8 element here. This is the high school element here. This is the multi-use for the school here, and then of course the gym here, the pool being here. And I can come back to any of these slides if you'd like to go over any particular element of them. Okay. And why is the arrow key not working? There we go. This is actually a shot of the gym. This is a shot of the K5, the commons area. And then this is an organizational plan. And can you all see you can see my cursor as it goes around. From the outside in, the orange line here is the security edge of the site. That's either fencing or a building. And so you can't enter the site without crossing that line, either by going through a building or through a gate. And so you want to sort of think of that as your evening lockdown. That's where the fence is when no one is on the site. Then the next important line is this blue line. This is the blue line that's accessible to the public, and no one from the public can get past that line without going through some sort of a sign-in, through a gate, through some sort of security edge. So they can get in, the public can get in and get to the community use building, to the senior center here, into the admin building here, where they can get up into wellness center or the health center, or get to the district office there on the street side of that zone. They can also get into this courtyard and then get to the library. And the library itself has its own controls, doors, that they can be locked or opened if need be. So this blue line again is sort of the public edge. Okay, then so once you're inside the rest of the site, there's other kinds of hierarchies of controlled access and management access. The green line, which is this line here, which defines the edge of this K5 play area and the community commons area, that's also secure. You can't move in or out of that without passing through a doorway or a gate. So there's no free flow of activity to this space without some sort of controls. Then the rest of it, of course, the buildings themselves. The K5 building has access, through the building to both sides, and you can manage that in a bunch of different ways. The high school here can't get into the green zone without going through a gate or some sort of door system. And then when you're into the field area, there are several zones here. One is the entrance of the K8 building here, and then the fields are here, which are at a different level, and then there are these two 7B and 7C, which are different levels of play or activity area that are separated by things like berms and some more geographic separation. between these three spaces here. The general thinking has always been that high school would be down here, middle school here, and the K-8 would be between the K-5 and here and up in this area here. There's nothing that prescribes that breakdown. Once you get into the site and understand how you want to use it, you can change these edges really any way you would like. A couple of other defining edges to think about is the multi-use building for the school, which is this space right here. The dashed lines define them into two spaces, and you can open those up so it's one room or divide them in two so there's two. So you can take the lower kids into one side and the high school kids in the other side, or the other way around, depending on how you want to do it. They both have access to the kitchen, and so you can use them in any number of ways in configuration. Similarly, the gym, the main court of the gym uses the entire gym, but for recreational use, there are two cross courts and there's a dividing wall that can be set up so you can break those into age groups or different kinds of uses as well. And then the pool, of course, is over here. So this is, let me actually go over a couple more things to look at. This is level 1, and I haven't labeled all the classrooms, but I wanted everyone to see where the blue is covered circulation throughout the entire site. So if you're walking from place to place on the site, you're under cover. This is the second floor.
Can you go back to that?
Beg your pardon?
Can you linger on that prior slide, just to...
The one before this one?
Yeah, the blue covered area.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be glad to take any questions as we go along here, too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that there are a number of ways that we can control the access through the different areas that you highlighted. I guess what I'm still confused about is who is making those decisions and when they're going to be made.
I'll share what I know about that. I know that there are operational meetings taking place with different levels of staff to make those decisions now. I'm available to help guide that in any way and understanding how the building works, but those are operational questions that, as the architect, I can't answer.
Okay, well, is anyone else able to answer my question, Dr. Rubio?
There are two new committees that have started up, I think, probably in the last month and a half, 2 months, last 2 months, where we are looking at programming, and so city staff and district staff have been meeting regularly to start to iron more of these things out.
Well, I'm glad you have eyes on it, because it's
a lot to figure out.
It's a lot to figure out, and it's certainly we want to have locking gates and security operational well before the kids move in.
Yes.
Dr. Rubio, is this system in conjunction with a system of security cameras? Because it seems to me if it's just human intervention here, you got nothing. But if you have a system of security cameras that is controlled from a central location, it's a whole different cup of tea. What are we doing about that?
Absolutely. In fact, one thing that I did, and I asked the architects to do with me and the construction company to do with me, was to go back and review all of that. So we spent hours going through those plans. We've actually added additional cameras. We are going to have a very comprehensive, safe supervision. Critical. We have blind spots now at our current schools that something may happen and it's not. So we're looking at increasing, always doing our best to increase safety. So, yes.
And do you have a place designated to have a watch point to see all these cameras?
We do, and we yeah, absolutely, yes, thank you.
On the gym there, the separation is good. I appreciated your reminding us about that you could split the gym in two. Are there two entrances?
Yeah, but you can,
for different grade levels to enter, the high school on one side and the lower grades on another?
Well, there are several ways to enter the gym. You can enter, there are two main entrances, actually three from the street side. From the public's approach to the gym, like if you're going to have an event, would typically be through into this lobby area and then from there into the gym. So this is where you buy your tickets, or there's a concession in there as well. From the school, you can get in through, there's a door system right here that goes in. This is where the locker facilities are. There's actually a hallway, so you go into a hallway, then into the gym, and then you can go to either the boys or the girls' locker rooms. Or you can enter, there's a door here, and there's another door down here.
So if the high school were going on the lower part of the gym, and the 8th graders or 6th graders were on the upper. What are the two different entrances?
You would bring one group in through this, and then into this side, the other group you would bring in.
Okay.
You could actually reverse that, but that would be the idea.
Okay.
A lot of those kinds of activities depends a lot on time of day. When do you have different groups, and whether you even have them there at the same time. But, okay, then just to go back over a couple of other. So again, the light blue is just covered circulation. This is the second floor, and I wanted to share this because of this is a high school deck area, which is really exclusive to their use, and only the high school can access. This is also where the high school accesses the health center, which is over here. So they have that access without interfering with any of the activities on the site. And that was my biggest point about that. And then this is just the third floor. This is the 7th and 8th grade is at the upper floor there. So let me back up to here, or even to here if you'd like. And answer any questions.
You and School Board Member Merriam had an exchange at our meeting last week around going back to the kind of the common area, the separation between the K-8 and the high school. Certainly having the cameras is helpful and an important part of that safety separation.
Yeah, the high school, this area here, both the first and second floor, you don't get through that green line without some sort of control to do that. And then as Mr. Rubio Superintendent Rubio was pointing out, there's camera systems all around the entire commons area and all around this area too. But anyway, so yes, the movement from the high school into this area or for the public into this area is controlled.
Yeah, so so let's take the public during the school day. They could not just walk into the courtyard.
No.
Because they would run into what?
A
locked gate?
A fence, a locked gate.
Yeah. However, a high school student, I think I was surprised to learn, could walk in, they just walk through a door. But, so the conversation we were having was, well, could you lock the door, or could you put some kind of panic alarm on the door, or?
Well,
so we know, we're communicating to high school students, you are not supposed to go through this door, and we know some kid inappropriately just went through a door.
It would be circuitous, that things like that could happen. For a high school student to get into the green zone, they would have to go into the library first and then from the library here. Or they would have to go clear around over into either the multi-use or into into the other school and then go through. So there's no direct access. There are a series of gates right here, but those gates go from here this way, not from here that way.
Okay,
so they can be locked.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
That was not clear to me last week. Because all right, that's helpful.
And that, actually the same with the other gates is you can get out, but you can't, people from the outside can't get in without some sort of control.
Okay. Don.
Mr. Cyberlek, when you opened your presentation pertaining to the drop-off zone on the north side on 53rd, is it a two-sided drop-off or just one-sided?
It's one-sided.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I just had a comment. Just even from the previous presentation last Wednesday, I just want to appreciate the design element that slows traffic down on 53rd, because right now it's horrendous. So I just wanted to also note that to our council members, because even in the past, this committee has provided the district support with having police presence at Annie Yates for double parking and whatnot. But I think the partnership has been really valuable to help with that type of issue. But I think the design of putting in the circle, I call it the circle. Is it a circle?
Turnaround.
Turnaround, yes, it sounds much more mature. So having that turnaround really would ease the traffic, because people do not stop. They just kind of pause and go right there. And ECDC is right there on the corner. I mean, it's really pretty hectic. And I have to go, you know, I make a left into that area, and it's pretty turbulent at times. So I'm just really glad to see there's some traffic easement actually part of the design here. I think the street elements are really beneficial for that neighborhood. It is an important artery. People really drive trucks huge, so it's really good to see that there'll be some slowing down of traffic.
I would add the whole signal system here at this intersection is going to be redone with this project too. And then the turnaround was a key part of making sure people drop off on the street, on the school side, not on the Oakland side.
Are there any other questions
I have one.
or comments?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Don.
That's Corman. Yeah, Mr. Cyberlake, I'm just looking at the graphic for that northern area, Area 1. It's been noted as, basically, square footage-wise, it's probably a good amount of space, but it's the way it's configured. I'm just eating at me because it looks like you could have just taken the fence straight north next to the field and encapsulated or taken over that play structure as part of the K-8 play area. And you probably would have increased your square footage of that area by about 30 to 40%. It just the configuration looks awkward.
I'm not sure.
The fence between the athletic fields and the play structure, which is in the green next to number 1, that area right there. Just take the fence straight north.
Well, north is up.
Yes. The fence between the play area, the turf field, and the track, and the hardscape adjacent to that, just that fence looks like it should just go directly north rather than jogging over and not taking into account the play structure.
Well, there's actually a significant grade change from this area to here. It's about 4.5 feet. And so there are other issues such as C3, which is not a word you might understand, the rest might not, but that's a drainage requirement on any new project these days. And so this is one of our C3 areas. Points taken, but actually we had a lot of trouble actually meeting the whole C3 requirement on the project. So, but yes.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks.
For the record, I requested of Mr. Baker, who works for Swinnerton, who's supposed to represent our interests, if I could speak with him real quickly, since I am a parent with a child in the district, regarding the presentation he had just made. You heard me ask that of him. So then I went privately and to get his assurance that he would talk to me. He said yes, but first he wanted to hear the presentation by the architect. And then, for the record, for the camera, people watching, Mr. Swinnerton has left the building, it appears. So he, before the architect was finished with his presentation, he went out the back door. And so my request, which I think is a reasonable and legitimate request to speak with him regarding his presentation, since I do have a child in the district, was not honored by the guy that represents our interest, John Baker of Swinnerton, the company I'm now starting to refer to as Swindleton, since we paid them over $1 million and they're not representing our interest. So Mr. Baker has left. He didn't honor my arguably very reasonable request to ask him some details. And I'd like the record to show that. You could maybe turn the camera, would be nice. We could look at his empty chair. It's right back there if you'd like. That might be some nice AV work. Up to the camera person. Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to make a couple comments and point out a few things and just, in terms of safety, besides the comprehensive surveillance system that we have and coverage for the students, the clarification by the architect tonight that the K-5 students actually, that's a strong border and boundary with gates, I appreciated that, and even now at our current site, the K-5 and the 6 to 8 kids actually are combined. There is no separation, so this offers us even more separation of our younger kids, our younger children, and our older students. So I think I just wanted to make note of that for the council and the school board. And one thing I mentioned the other night during our school board meeting is that with a new facility. While our current facilities do meet the previous standards, we are looking at a much higher level of safety in terms of earthquake standards. So I want to make sure I remind the public of that in our joint team tonight. Yeah, and one more thing, we are going to spend the additional money we need to spend to have one of the safest soccer fields probably in Northern California. Many soccer fields, there's this uncertainty about the rubber pellets and the infill and the soccer fields, and this keeps hitting the national news even in the last several weeks again. So I'm happy to just remind everyone that we will have one of the safest soccer fields for not just our community members, but also for our children. So just want to point that out as well. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions on item C, let's move on to item D, presentation from Partnership for Children's/Youth on Quality After-School Program Standards.
So you should have a copy of two materials, one that is blue and the other one has a green on the face of it. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Andrea Broxton, and I am the Director of Technical Assistance and Planning with the Partnership for Children and Youth. And so I'll give you a little bit of an update on what we are, what we do, and a little bit about my role as we go along. So for today's discussion, like I said, we'll do a brief overview of PCY and give you an update on California's expanded learning quality standards and kind of where that is right now. I'll also profile a local city and district collaboration around this work, so you can also have a deeper dive in terms of the standards. And then we'll have time at the end for questions. So PCY. So we're a local intermediary, so we do a lot of state and federal policy, as well as technical assistance, which is in my realm. So essentially my role is really to be a liaison, the jacket of all trades, if you will, between cities and districts and city-based partnerships. So really we work in terms of improving quality and access and equity for children and youth across the state. So this is just a quick snapshot of our numbers at a glance. So in terms of our services, it's pretty holistic. So from expanded learning to community schools to policy to work in education and housing environments as well. We offer a variety of support for the districts and the cities across the state. So ELO. So if you've heard about expanded learning time or after school or summer, for quite some time we love our acronyms. So in terms of ELO, I wanted to make sure that I was clear on what this really means and what this is talking about. So a lot of what I'm speaking on has to do with the California's after-school division, which is a part of the CDE. So this is the latest kind of definition that we help to write and craft with them. So really we're referring to before school, after school, summer and intercession. So when we talk about the standards and some of the profiles that I'll be going over, we're looking at this wider expansion of this type of learning and the extending of this learning. So a quick hit on California and kind of the profile of the lay of the land. So what's really fun about the work that we do and what I'm bringing to you today is really looking at how we have been able to really make movement and offer more supports and services for children and youth across the state. So this is a quick hit on where things are currently, so the state of the state in terms of expanded learning. So there's over 4,400 programs across the state. And so some of you may have heard of a policy, Prop 49, several years ago, where it gave quite a bit of infusion of dollars across the state. And so we saw quite significant expansion of expanded learning and really extending the learning throughout the full day. So right now it's about 430,000 youth high need. So these are students primarily that are free and reduced lunch. So in terms of the demographics, that's where these numbers are coming from. So the California Department After School Division, what's important to know about this is really the definition in terms of really the movement and the vision for really changing and supporting a child's learning over time. So again, before, during, after, summer, and intercession. So really looking at a year-round spectrum that really is a support system of integration between different systems throughout a city, throughout and within a district, within also a school site. This is kind of the latest research in terms of the impact of after school. And I thought it would be important to share this as I frame a little bit more around the national perspective, a little bit more around the state and local perspective. So what this essentially is demonstrating is this lasting power of expanded learning time and the impact that it really can have in a child's life. So on the one hand, it looks at the math achievement is a snapshot right here in terms of high participation and really how that can be evening of the playing ground for all students and all youth, and that's really what we hope to see. So really after school as a way to close that achievement gap and really expand the learning.
That's a really interesting chart. And is it true that the school board, did you guys have this presentation at your last meeting? Have you seen this before? I'm just curious how this chart would apply to Emory if we know. I'd love to get that information in the future, just in terms of percentage of low-income children, middle-income children, high income. So to know how the effects of ELO would affect our kids here at Emory. And that's something I'd love to know that at some point.
Just to clarify and make sure I understand, I think that city staff and district staff could work together to determine some of that information for you. But in terms of, and is this showing a correlation between, it's probably a correlation statistical analysis. So I'm not sure if you're asking for that level.
I'm asking how many high-need kids as a percentage are in our district.
We can, yeah, in the after-school program.
Yes.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. And it's not something, it's not urgent, but it's helpful in seeing this presentation.
Sure.
What's the percentage of students that are taking advantage of the free lunches? That gives you some kind of an indication.
Good point.
Yeah, we're hovering, I believe, around 80 to 85%.
That, in a nutshell, gives you the figure that you're looking for.
Thank you.
And do we know I actually haven't seen data on the participation in the rec center after-school program vis-a-vis the student demographics. So I think that would be good to know.
So this is a snapshot of the state priorities. So this is coming out of CDE's after school division, which really is the owner or the director of the expanded learning work across the state. So what I have here is just a snapshot of Oakland. So I want to start to weave in some of the profile of Oakland into this conversation. So when Oakland first got started, and was looking at the standards that they were looking at back maybe about 8 years ago, these were some of the 2 top priorities that they had coming into this work. One was student achievement, and the other one was student engagement. So really, they were posed with the challenge of how do we make more meaning of this, how do we make more impact around this, and how are we informed truly by data that's rooted in something that can be normed across the country. So looking both as an isolation within the local standpoint and also globally in terms of national trends and impact around student achievement and engagement.
Ms. Broxton, if I could just interrupt. These 8 priorities are the state's newly defined 8 priorities under the local control funding formula.
Yes.
For all districts to achieve and focus on and set goals in and improve on. And so every local plan, which Emory has one too, addresses how we're going to achieve these 8 state priorities, including the engagement of students and student achievement.
Yes. So what I'm speaking about also has to do with before local control actually even showed up on the scene. So it also kind of profiles how the city and district profile got started on this quality work even before local control was around. So these were the top 2 about 8 years ago at that time. So really the quality standards is a common framework, and I also like to say a common language in terms of what success and impact looks like over time for a child and a youth and a family. So there's 2 documents that recently were published. One, which you have a handout of a snapshot of, is really just the overview of all of the quality standards, which there's 12, and the other one is a crosswalk of the assessment piece of this. So really being mindful, the state was very mindful in terms of not wanting to over-prescribe what quality really looks like, but paint the picture of what quality looks like and allow the local communities to really dictate how that comes to life. So the crosswalk is important because it gives cities and districts and schools an opportunity to really see where they fit in with some of the other measurements in terms of expanded learning time. So point of service, so this is that direct instruction, and programmatic standards really looks at the infrastructure. So again, that sustainability line within that. So looking at Oakland's profile, these were the top areas that they were looking at, again, about 8 years ago, that are still resonant with them right now in terms of how they make joint decisions around funding for school-based after-school and summer programs. These were the top ones that came up in terms of what they wanted to make movement on, and what was again tied back to that original slide that I showed you around student achievement and student engagement. So working within their CBO partners, what could they do to really grow the quality, expand the quality, and really name what quality meant to them as a whole. So these were some of the top tiers. I would also say collaborative partnerships was very important. So at the onset of Prop 49 and continuing on today is really the city and district made a determination that in order to bring about change, they really wanted to work with community-based organizations. So that was a critical piece and call in terms of what quality really looked like, knowing that they wanted to weave in the community into what was already happening within the school district and other city initiatives. So this is a profile, and what you have in terms of the blue form is really a snapshot of a really amazing 3-year project that blended lots of different school districts in Oakland to be a part of this particular initiative. So what's cool about this, it really looked at where the rubber hits the road in terms of quality standards. And what I like to say is really that continuous quality improvement process. So really, how are we making a difference based on the data that we received? How are we planning? How are we supporting the quality staff to really grow and learn and deepen their practices? how are we integrating with initiatives that are happening within the school day? So in Oakland, they were actually discontinuing or at risk of discontinuing summer programming. And part of the leverage points to get this funding was really to have other funders come to the table, so the city being able to provide that support. So they know that they had that piece of it, but they wanted to actually make a little bit more movement in terms of core engagement and achievement areas during the summertime to really help with the summer slide. So the Summer STEM project was really a great initiative in really bringing a lot of this to life. So it integrated certificated teachers, it integrated experts in terms of evaluation and technical assistance. So lots of different people really invested in making a difference. So I'll tell you a little bit more about.
Can you just define summer slide for
Sure.
folks?
So summer slide really is talking about summer learning loss. So what happens for kids when they're not engaged in academic and enrichment programs? So maybe they do not have an opportunity to participate in a camp. And so the research connected to that in terms of students losing some of what they learned and the gains that they made during the academic school year. So that was important in order to match and marry the summer work with some innovation around STEM learning as well. So co-defining what quality looks like. So really using the standards as the impetus for change. And what we like to say is really an engineering approach to what program quality and quality infrastructure truly looks like. So if you look inside a little bit, take a deeper dive a little later, you'll find some data actually in terms of the impact that this had, not only for the students, but also for the staff, also for the schools, and really what we've learned overall. So the key nugget to kind of take away and profile and provide you with is these 4 processes that really the city and the districts that are still operating now truly look for in terms of their partnerships, in terms of really making some progress over time. So one big key piece was convening partners who had different expertise or knowledge areas to really make movement. So realizing that the direct instruction time around science and technology wasn't enough, and that they needed more. And this was a chance to really partner with some field expertise around here to bring that into the school in the summertime and really cycle that back into the academic year. So really focusing on how can we use partnerships and expand our knowledge and expand our reach in terms of the impact for youth in some gap areas.
Okay. Can you give us some examples of specific partners that Oakland engaged with and kinds of things they did?
Sure. So specific partners from the funding standpoint, really working with those STEM funders, which was Bechtel and Noyce and Samueli. The other piece was an evaluator who both evaluates the school-based and the non-school-based programming for the city, and also the school-based programming for the district. So having an evaluator, having funders, TechBridge, which is an organization who focuses on STEM learning, bringing them to the table, and then as well as my organization who does policy and advocacy and technical assistance. Not to mention the schools and the CBO partners who had a wider range of skills and expertise.
Did you have any companies or,
Actually, one of the school sites that I'm kind of pulling from some of their best practices, which is East Oakland Pride. Just recently this summer, they've been partnering with Pixar to really share some of the best practices they made and did around STEM learning in summertime, and the best practice to then share on with some of the things that they're doing now. So that's a business partner that they work with.
One we know well.
Yes. Identifying the challenge and defining success. So I often like to say, really defining the success avenue up front. And so in terms of a quality improvement process and quality standards, this is something that the city and the district jointly ask of their CBO partners. So they require them to submit a plan about what success will look like over the course of the year, and then they hold them accountable to that and also provide supports in terms of any challenges that they may be identifying. The other piece is brainstorming a possible solution. So a real critical piece of the quality process is having time to debrief. Debrief on what worked well, debrief on what there's still room to grow, and really having a collaborative approach in terms of how to make a difference, how to change those things. So specifically, within this project, every year, at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, the city, the district, and all the partners were convened to talk about and look through and identify areas of growth and areas for improvement against the evaluation. So with this particular project, there was an extensive evaluation both for the students and for the staff, and then the school district also did additional data in terms of that summer slide piece that I highlighted to see if gains were made and or academic achievement was maintained. So really critically going through all these different pieces and talking about how can we change a few things, make them a little bit better. So that went from curriculum to how observations were done, when they were done in the classroom, all kinds of different things. So last but not least, and I've kind of spoke about this one throughout, was really engaging in a continuous cycle of quality improvement. And I can say, before I actually joined the partnership, I was a CBO partner that was a part of the first initiative with the City of Oakland and OUSD. And from where they were then, 8 years ago, to where they are now is really amazing. And I have to say it has a lot to do with common language around how quality is created and maintained and sustained over time. And so really having common language about what really quality looks like and standards can really be an impetus to help that conversation and hold that conversation over time. So thinking more expansively, so I wouldn't be a TA provider if I didn't leave a couple of nuggets or takeaways and lessons learned. So of course, with the city, of course, with the districts, there's still a lot more to do around this work, but really having a chance to think expansively has been really important. So for Oakland Unified School District, as a result of this pilot summer STEM project, they looked at how can we bring this learning to a wider audience and more students across the district. So it went from just serving a few schools in the beginning to having STEM in summer at a hub across the entire district. So serving about 1,200 students to now serving almost 5,000. So again, looking at how we can take a small pilot and expand that over time, using the partnerships and using different leverage points. Giving yourself time. So this one is an important thing. I love to say to people, planning just kind of never stops. You really are looking at this throughout and integrating things that you already have plans for. So really making meaning and connections and cross-transference between what you're already doing. That's important, and that was important in terms of the partnership between the city and the partnerships between the district. I've already touched upon really being systematic about evaluation, but I cannot say that enough. We all know that from expanded learning to during the school day, there's lots of evaluations that are out there. So really being strategic about which ones you need and why, and how they then map back to the quality that you expect to see and what your results actually ultimately are. It's imperative, really, for self-reflection and getting staff involved at all levels. So those 2 debriefs that I talked about, everybody was at the table. It wasn't just for certificated teachers or the evaluators or the district leads. All the way from line staff were also involved in this process because we all have a stake in what quality truly looks like when we all understand what that means. Reflecting on what you learn and then using it. Many of the learnings that we found from this have then been able to be leveraged and show a stage across the national platform. So recently, I think in March, there was the West Coast Institute, which brought out a very big funder, the Wallace Foundation, and Oakland was profiled as a result of some of this amazing work that they've been doing. So I would have to say it's important to say what you've learned, showcase what you've learned, and really take it to the next level. And persist and give yourself space and time. So in terms of how to do this is really interweaving the schedule that a city works on and a district works on. And I'm not saying that lightly because I do understand how complex that truly can be, but really finding those leverage points. So for instance, when and how are we going to convene people and really talk about this? When should that start? At the start of the school year, at the start of the grant cycle, all those different decisions are then made. So for instance, in Oakland right now, if you talk to any CBO partner or district or city, they're getting ready for a huge RFP process, so requests for proposals, where more and more CBO partners will be talking about how they can make quality, what the quality really looks like to them, and trying to bring more services to children and youth. And so the district is really mindful of that going on. And so they've had communication throughout this process in terms of, okay, maybe I'm not going to require this right now because I know you have this big thing going on. So really being conscious about the timing is another important lever in terms of thinking expansively. So how will you know? So it's a fun question I like to ask. So we can talk about what quality looks like, but at the end of the day, how will you know that you've achieved quality? And so really taking in all the different stakeholders into account. So I spoke a little bit about convening partners, but that definitely is not absolute from families and other businesses and other things that may be a part of this. But really everyone has a stake in a child's life, and really thinking of quality from that standpoint. So using this information, this data, to really bring about change. And how will you know really comes in terms of the cycle of quality improvement and assessing yourselves against those quality standards. So I've said a lot, and so I just wanted to give a pause and give time for folks to answer or ask me any questions, and also just think about any low-hanging fruit items that may be helpful to think about in the context of quality standards right here in Emeryville.
Questions?
Chairman, I don't have a question, but I do have comments. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate the care and effort that you've put into it. However, I'm a little disturbed here because what we heard here, the members who are on the city's school committee many years ago, which is only Melody and I, have heard almost exactly the same presentation from Tony Smith. I don't know whether you agree with me, but it seems like that to me. This is a concern for me. These are thoughtful ideas. These are thoughtful things that move forward. But this school district is a very small school district. We are also struggling. We don't have a really good, how can I say this? I don't want to say reputation, but our scores are very poor. Oakland schools have a very, very poor scores. So if you look at what kind of information we should be looking for in this school district and in this city, I think we should be looking to districts who have been successful in educating their students. Successful, so that they have the test scores, that they really have students, once they complete their high school, they have the ability to operate in society, whether it's in college or in jobs. And I hate to see us be distracted or focus, although I appreciate the work you put into this. I don't think it's what this school district needs. We have a really serious job here. We've spent an inordinate amount of money to build a really good structure, a really good school. But if we don't have the right attitudes toward the teaching and the education, we have nothing. And I appreciate your efforts, but this is, I don't believe this is the answer, and I would hate to see us go down the same path we went down. Tony Smith had great ideas, but there has to be implementation of the ideas. That's my comment.
And let me just add, one of your final points had to do with quality of the program and education.
Right.
One of our things that I think might warrant further conversation as we go along and important for our students in the partnership is, I know that in terms of, is this something we face, all districts face, I think cities face it, and after-school programs and school districts, the issue of quality. Exactly. And I know one of the challenges for us and for the city as well, I think, is you guys are limited, and I think the city limits the amount of hours. Is it 1,000 hours? I forget that. How long? About 1,000 hours. So the people that are hired in the after-school program by the city, I think, are limited. They may not work more than 1,000 hours, which I assume has something to do with benefits or something. But I think it does affect the quality of the staff. And one struggle and concern I think that we should have as partners in terms of quality, and thank you for, that's, I think that was mentioned in your program, presentation, is how do we make sure we have a quality program, I guess, and you know what I mean, because I'm not sure we're always getting the best staff members for the students. We've had parents complain about, and and this is struggles and things that we're working on as well, but bullying in the program and not being sure if they want their children to attend. So I just wanted to elaborate on one of your points in terms of quality. I think that's one of the reasons that there's something for us to think about as we go forward.
I would say really about the comment of Oakland, yes, there is a lot more learning to go. I think in terms of what I'm leaving and providing here is truly the quality standpoint. Franklin McKinley School District, which is a small K-8 unified school district in San Jose, was also a part of this initiative too. So part of this was to look at how to bring about quality and quality practices, both in a subset of a very small school district with limited resources to a very large school district with a lot more resources. And so in terms of our work across the state, we look at that, both rural communities, larger communities, in between, in terms of what this really means and what this really looks like. Yes, definitely there's a lot more time and more effort that needs to be made, but I think really utilizing and having a common language around quality is an essential first step and a step to keep and maintain.
I guess I have to say, Member Daves, I'm a little, just confused by your comment because I didn't see you say this isn't it or this is Tony Smith. I didn't see an it. I didn't see a particular let's do X. What I saw was here are the dimensions of a quality program. And I'm pretty sure you're not against having a quality after-school program, because I know you.
Stop beating your wife?
Right.
That's the kind of question.
Right. That's the kind of, I know that you support that, and we all do. And I think that's the question of do we have a quality after-school program? What are the dimensions that make up a quality after-school program that could extend the learning of the day? What pieces don't we have that we should be thinking about? So that's, I didn't see any particular proposal here other than quality. So it did raise questions for me about staff, like how do we get quality staff? I saw you say you raised $90 million over the years to support after-school program. I want to know more about that. Like, how can we raise additional money? Because my understanding of the program is it's basically funded by the ADA of our students through the Prop 49 dollars.
Some of it, not
Yeah,
all of it.
yeah. So
Could you clarify what the funding is, Pedro?
Sure. The Prop 49 grant is about $80,000 coming through the school district. We serve over 288 students. We have over 30 part-time staff members. So I believe the cost, and I don't have it with me right now, it's more than $80,000 to provide that program. So the city is subsidizing the rest of that cost to run that after-school program, before and after school and summer camps. We believe we do have a quality program. There are some continuity issues with having staffing only being limited to the 1,000 hour per year, but we do have some good staff, and actually tonight I have our staff here, Recreation Manager Brad Helfenberger, and our new staff member, Asia Pujol, who's our program coordinator, who's overseeing the after-school program, and comes to us from the YMCA with 5 years of experience dealing with after-school programs and implementing a lot of new things and trying to address these. And this standard is required to be followed for the ACES program, so we have to make sure we're following these standards. I believe we actually do a lot of those things by having academics and enrichment and physical activity within our program, which includes homework support, tutoring, science clubs, reading incentive programs, math and literacy activities, weekly science activities, weekly art activities, food crafts, character development activities, structured group play, micro soccer, basketball leagues, capoeira, yoga, and aerobic activities. So that's what the after-school program currently provides to the NEA students, which we currently have about 200 students in.
Chair Donahue, if we could, this is an important area, and certainly, like everyone else, I support quality, but I think we have an after-school program now, I think is well-run by the city's recreation department, who you have to be accountable to many criteria in Prop 49, right?
Correct.
I think it would help all of us on this committee to have a report back from the rec department in terms of just where we fit within these quality constraints, where we are being excelling and where we are falling short. So you have introduced a good topic, but let's see where we are now, and let's see once we get that report back from the rec department. And there's so much going on now with the rec department. I'm not asking for this for the next meeting, but it's something that after the first of the year, if you can bring it back so that we can, as a joint committee, school city committee, can say, we've had this information on quality after-school programs. We have a after-school program. We want to see where we fit within these constraints. Does that seem reasonable to everybody? You know, we've got information here. Let's not just let it float out in the sky. Let's pin it down and see if it can be some assistance to us.
I think that's a great suggestion. I think that's what Ms. Broxton came to us tonight to try to stimulate that conversation.
Yeah, I really want to commend the rec department because I feel they have done a superb job. Not easy, especially with the constraints of space and the shuffling around that's been going on, but you're doing a good job. Just one other comment I want to make. A quality after-school program is important, but it has to be supported by a school day that does really educates the children. You can't rely on the quality after-school program. Sorry for the rant, guys.
And I would just add that we do work very closely with school staff, Juliet, about the ACES program and the after-school programs, and we are partnering together, and we're looking for ways to always improve and find other partners and out in the community. If it's, you know, as mentioned earlier, we actually also had a meeting recently with Pixar to see how we can involve them. They want to volunteer and come out and see how their staff can maybe participate here and there, some kind of showing kids how to draw and use certain programs and stuff like that. So we are working out and trying to reach out to the community and always looking to improve. So any community-based organizations or businesses that we can reach out to or are willing to help us out, we're looking into those. So.
Wonderful. Yeah. Chair Donahue, yeah. So, I mean, I think we're certainly not here to question the work or the efforts of the after-school program. We're here to work together to say how can we, what kind of program do we have, how does it fit, how can we do a better job on the school side to support quality after school, and what can the city do, and how can we partner together? So I think I'd like to hear back about the partnerships with businesses, and I think there's a lot that we could be doing. Students tours of the tech companies and the biotech, and coordinate that with our science program, so that we are using that after school time to really extend the learning and get students more interested in science. Carol Bell presented a very good STEM summer camp that you guys did last year, and we should be doing that the whole year. How do we make that happen? We've got a summer girls or a science girls kind of thing going on that's working with you guys too. So I guess that's the kind of thing. And if we can raise additional funds, because we're doing some interesting things, and there are foundations out there that want to support that, let's do that. Then we can have more resources to try to provide a good program. And I guess I would like to hear from you if, what sorts of other, CBO partnerships are possible. And we understand there's, groups like partnerships to be for children and youth to be an intermediary, but are there other what are the other partnerships that you've seen in other districts that have worked well, and how do we, I guess, in your experience, approach, how do we get funding from outside foundations to support this kind of work?
Yeah, I would say, I'd go back to the default of quality. A lot of funders were finding the landscape are looking for this data source from the onset, and really having a baseline to start this process with. So that's an important part. So really maybe starting off first with an evaluator that you can work with. So whether it's an internal thing as well, looking at attendance rates, and then expanding out. So that would be one leverage and partnership that I've seen to work really well. County offices sometimes as well, leveraging some of their initiatives and showcasing how your city and how your district can play a role. And that STEM is a hot topic. So, it's not going to go away. I was actually last week at the state NGSS, so that's the Next Gen Science Standards Coalition meeting, talking about how this was going to be implemented. So looking for some of those hot ticket items that have a big bang for your buck during the after school, as well as during the academic year as well. So looking at partnerships and looking at who is kind of doing a similar work. So oftentimes I work with cities and districts to actually match them up and start to have conversations and share best practices, which is really the biggest thing that's happening right now, as opposed to seeking out funding. Solely, how can we come together and share and kind of barter and say, okay, I've got this curriculum, I can train your staff on this, and I've got this partnership, I can bring them into the table. So really going back to that convening partnerships. So looking for information gaps and performance gaps as a start, and working your way out. So I always like to advise to go in and then out, and so do a little bit of a matrix mapping of what you have and what you may need.
Any other questions or comments?
I talked to you, so I'm going to go through all that. We're doing all of that. And then I'm going to talk to them because ACES has no choice but to do. In order for us to get that funding, we have to go through all those steps. We have a whole year of kids today before 2016.
Yeah.
But we have to go through all those steps. And so we in the city have been communicating, and I, Brad, Asia, already on looking at that. The one thing that I do want to talk about.
Well, you've got to go to the microphone. I'll give you a few comments.
You're power man.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say we have been meeting. When I inherited the after-school program, it was basically to get it going again. We are in partnership, not only because of ECCL, but because that whole list of qualities we have to have in our programming, and it's not just counting numbers anymore. You have to have data. You have to have all of the things that they had up there. So we're working on that. But what I'd like to talk to her about, too, is I've always thought, we're a tiny little district. We'll always be a small district. We don't have to be tiny necessarily. So the only way we're going to get the kind of powerhouse people coming to us is not only have a quality program, Nora, definitely, but regionalizing our partnerships. So when we're with Albany, we can say we're in Albany together, or we can say we're in Berkeley together. I don't know if Oakland wants to talk to us, but we can always ask them about it. But if we don't regionalize ourselves with all the different school districts around, small and large, and then go together with a particular idea, we won't get to where we want to be, because we just need that. Those numbers, that support, and that face when we get to these funders. Thank you.
Just one comment. Just as this is it for me, but I will say that I think it's really important. The message that I got from presentation is absolutely collaboration is critical. And the fact that we have two different bodies at this table does not preclude us from working together and having staff do it, and I'm glad to hear that. And I think ultimately it sounds like a presentation about curriculum, you know, what the delivery is in our school district, as well as what the after-school program, to know what that looks like for a student that comes through our district. Folks should know. We shouldn't, I mean, and it's part about being here is sharing across, you know, the table, and not necessarily, you know, have to go to one meeting to get this piece in here, but that's the benefit of having both bodies together. So I would suggest, just as my own little parting, make sure that this unit remains a unit and that you share information, because there's nowhere else really does this. I mean, who else really does this? So make sure that you hold on to that. But I think it's really important to, you know, stress the point that collaboration is critical. We have a building, but we have stuff to put in it, and we've heard a lot of presentations over the year. But I think it's really important to make sure that people are working together, and that the bodies are working together, so that we are the models for what should be happening every day. So I just wanted to add that, but that's just my little thought there. But good luck.
Easy for you to say.
You said you weren't going far.
I'm not far. I'm going to see.
Well, I definitely second Member Davis's suggestion of having a report back and sort of an assessment of how we stack up against these quality standards, what our partnerships look like, and where we could expand our quality. That'd be great.
Okay, with that, we should perhaps move on to number 7, future agenda items.
We just
Okay,
had
that's
one.
one.
There you go.
Any other suggestions about future agenda items?
When is the next meeting?
January
2
7th.
months.
January 7th.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you.
Well, we
Maybe
certainly
we should have
want
it in the
to.
new gym.
Yeah.
That would be that's a great suggestion.
Don't scratch the floors.
Have a pool party.
Yeah, wear socks. Huh?
Okay, with that, if there are no other questions or comments about future agendas, we are adjourned.
Good Lord.